Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagen. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scott, how goes it?
It goes good.
Beautiful.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, my man. So,
Yeah.
Scott, you just did a little traveling. I think it was in Seattle, you told me? The USP, or was it, where was it?
Spokane, so
Spokane.
Eastern Washington. Yeah.
Okay, Eastern Washington. So you were driving up to Washington. My apologies for being very geocentric or
Yeah.
non-geocentric. Anyway.
I realize a lot of the country might not know the difference between Spokane and Seattle, but they're, Seattle is generally on the western side. Spokane is east, real near the Idaho border. But it's one of the larger cities in the Northwest, though, in spite of that.
So they had the USPL Nationals there, right?
Yep, Raw Nationals, huh?
Ah, the Raw Nationals. Okay, what's the difference between Raw and non-Raw lifting, Scott?
Yeah, so in Raw, you're able to wear a belt, and you can have wraps and things on, things on your knees, sleeves, but you can't wear squat suits and real compressive garments like bench shirts, etc. That would be more geared powerlifting, essentially. And those can add, over 100 pounds to lift, basically. So that's why it's not apples to apples, even though the lifts are the same and the meet runs the same way.
Yeah. So you had how many lifters lifting?
I just had one qualify for nationals. Yeah.
Good. All right.
Yeah, would have been tricky.
So how did it go overall with your lifter there, Scott?
Yeah, it went good. She ended up in 8th against, real elite field. She thought 10th would be a best case. Everything worked great scenario. So getting a couple places higher than that, she was pretty excited. There's definitely a couple of the ladies in the echelon of that were just freaks of nature, basically.
Yep.
Early 20s, pulling significantly more weight than anyone else in the field.
Yep.
So she was near the top of the complete freaks, I guess. And she's bordering on being eligible to be in the masters category.
Oh, wow. Okay. So do you do her programming as well, Scott?
Yeah, I've done her programming for several years now.
Okay. And what does the peaking look like for something like nationals? But obviously she had to do a qualifier at some point during the year, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we had a qualifier, which was in May, I want to say. Yeah. And we did 2 to 3 meets per year is kind of what we've done. I think this is the 5th meet I've prepped her for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Over the course of a few years. So thankfully, we have some experience on what types of peaking works, what kind of water loading for a weight, if we're bordering, we need to deal with any weight cutting, what works well and doesn't create a lot of stress.
Yep.
So we've had time to plan these things out. Plus we kind of know the rhythm of how events go and how to best take attempts. Peaking. So while she's strong at a very high, at a high level, I still kind of consider her in sort of an intermediate powerlifter stage. Now it's going to be trending more into an advanced. So we don't do terribly long deloads.
Okay. So you're talking about in terms of training age, Scott?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this was somebody that originally came to, a CrossFit gym just like everybody else, get in a little better shape, lose some weight, and kind of continued to get fatigued from, Metcon-y kind of stuff over time, but also realized that, she seemed to get strong really quickly. And just kind of picked a different avenue and really, thrives in it. So low rep, she's somewhat of a neuromuscular efficiency type that the high rep stuff is going to not set well with, but she does very well with low, high force, low rep, long rest kind of scenarios, as you might guess. So that's kind of where it originally started. And I've had other clients I've trained for meets in the past as well. So this wasn't the first power lifter I'd trained or coached through meets. we kind of do is about a 2-week deload, though the first part of that is still fairly heavy. And that seems to work really well. And then the final week, we're looking at just a few lifts in maybe the 80% range. And then toward the end of the week, we just do neuromuscular stimulation stuff. So ball slams, explosive push-ups, a few things, keep the nervous system sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very underappreciated the week of, because we think, okay, deload, don't do anything. But maybe that actually takes the little bit of the edge off of the sword, so to speak. Right, Scott?
It does, yeah. And that's, I think, is when I was more of a novice coach, I thought, oh, we got to deload, they got to be rested, right? And actually, a lot of people, especially people with, fairly high work capacity, basically feel like crap if you sit around and don't move.
Yeah.
And there's not too many states in a natural environment where we would just be able to not move, right? So it doesn't even really fit in with our physiology when you think about it. So I want to definitely do something to keep people sharp. It depends if it's a power strength event like this, then that means explosive things that don't have an eccentric component to them, that we can still sharpen the nervous system. So depending on the person in the sport, et cetera, it could be jumps, throws, could be, concentric only deadlifts and drops, maybe depending on the person again. Events that have a more of a aerobic, we're typically still getting in some light work as well.
Just keep blood flow and that kind of stuff. Recovery.
Keep parasympathetic tone up. I mean, people with a pretty well-developed aerobic base can see their parasympathetic tone drop a little bit, just with a little bit of time, a couple days off of doing anything significant. And while you don't want any fatigue, I don't know if we want to let the system drift more sympathetic before it. So
yeah, maybe it affects sleep and recovery and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Anything in particular that you do that's maybe atypical of traditional powerlifting when it comes to the actual day of the meet, Scott? Because you got to do weigh-ins about 2 hours prior, right? And it's a morning weigh-in for her, or?
Well, in most cases, but being in the primetime group,
that's right.
Weigh-in was not till 4 p.m. and lifting didn't start till 6 o'clock.
So how'd you handle that, Scott?
So this is obviously not a time she's used to training, during an afternoon trainer. Thankfully, we've kind of solved what we need to do to be underweight, which is add a small amount of low intensity aerobic work.
Oh, okay.
This time it was barely any was needed. We went with a very light water load, and she knew she was fine that morning. She'd arrived early enough to kind of weigh in and know where she was sitting, so it worked fine. So she was able to eat enough to not be hungry or dehydrated or anything going into the meet, because that can be an issue and has been in the past at times.
Do you think it's more of the hunger / calorie / glycogen, or do you think it's more of the fact that they're dehydrated?
It can be dehydrated, and you're not going to really get a depleted any glycogen, but you can have
or low blood sugar.
For the brain, for your central nervous system is fatigued. That is an issue. So we want to keep that up. So snacks on hand, and then as soon as weighing, some nice salty, easily digestible snacks, and obviously for nerves, she's not really hungry. Stress hormones are running high before what is about to go down, and just kind of
So maybe some foods that will give you a little bit of a serotonin plug, a little chocolate, a little, just a little something.
And I always say it doesn't matter what event, don't do anything that you haven't tried or is out of the norm.
Yep. Which was what my thought was when you said you had been doing, 5 or 6 meets prior to this. It takes 2 years to refine some of these things, right?
It totally does. I mean, yes. Yeah, just 2 meets ago, thankfully, it was just a little practice meet. We got too aggressive with first attempts, and we ran into some trouble, and learned a big lesson. And then for the the state meet that was the qualifier for this. She went 3 for 3 on all the lists
Oh,
because they
wow.
had a much smarter plan. But
Yep.
thankfully, we jacked up that contest that didn't count, and
Yep.
really hit home. Okay, this is how we want to do this.
Yeah, if you mess up and you learn, it's not failure.
No, and then this event was a whole other level. I mean,
That's a good point.
it's and so there were some logistic things. So warm up was downstairs. There's 4 platforms running upstairs, or for the final group she was in, they only had 2 because that was kind of like the focus, finale. And the warm up for the squats was really kind of a mess. There wasn't that many racks. Men and women had to use the weights and their strength. She's strong. She can squat in the upper 300s, but I mean, I watched a guy take 80 or 840 for a warm-up set, and he stood it up like an air squat.
Oh,
and then a little later on, I saw it with 905, and he didn't even struggle with that much. So,
whoa,
you can see you're trying. That's a huge disparity, and to try to get warm-up sets in, and then everyone needs a different height rack, right?
Yep.
Now that specialty racks that are easy to change heights, but it was pretty stressful getting warmed up for the squat. And then everybody got upstairs for a 6 o'clock kickoff, and they wanted to introduce all the judges. And most of the judges who were like former 7-time world champions or whatever.
Yep.
And so you're standing back there now for 15 unplanned minutes. So you're going to go out and you're going to take your first attempt, but you haven't done a single movement for 25 minutes since your last warm-up set. Now everyone's in the same boat, but people were getting pissed backstage. And you're just in this little area behind the screen, coaches and athletes. You don't have a lot of room to move around. Can't really see what's going on. You just watch the monitor with the next lifter coming up. And
well, at least they have that.
Yeah. But anyway, it was really a lot of fun. The squats went, okay, equal their former meet. And then bench went okay, and then deadlift, she hit it out of the park there on her best deadlift. Got like a 30-pound, I think, meet PR on the deadlift.
Oh, wow.
So 481 to close out. So
481?
Yeah.
Holy moly. It's a lot of weight, Scott. What weight class is she?
85 kilo.
Okay. Wow. Very impressive. Very impressive. Jeez. It's a lot of plates.
Yeah, it is.
I just wonder what 481 would do to my spine right now.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. Congratulations.
Pretty sure it would just tear the skin off my hands.
Oh, my God. Yeah, literally, it'd just be a cheese grater. That's great. Congratulations on that, Scott. Any things that you might have picked up on as a coach observing maybe other coaches and athletes while you were there? That's something that I always kind of take away. I'm like, oh, wow, they do this. And, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. Or, like, maybe it reinforces some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things of going to any sort of contest. I used to go to, I would be on at every minute of regionals. Like I didn't miss any event because I wasn't so much. I really wanted to watch, but I watched athlete strategies, coaches tried to learn.
Yeah.
And, similar. Like I sat there most of Sunday during the day to watch people make attempts and see what, based on, because you can kind of tell effort levels and, see what the better people that weren't missing the third lift, how they approached it, what coaching, and then warming up and as best as I could. Now we didn't get to watch as much because with that many lifters, they didn't let you down, you or your athlete down to see the warm up area until it was like a half hour before your time to get in there, or it would have just been a mess. But with that said, definitely some stuff to digest a little bit, but it's certainly simpler when you only have 3 exercises that you're worried about rather than a hopper of 50 some.
I know,
and potential curveballs there.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah. I like you said, that's one of my favorite things to do is to pick things up from people, maybe even chat with the coaches, to pick their brain about the way they see things or the way that they actually prepare for meets, weight cutting wise, attempts wise. So there's as much as it's for the athlete, there's a lot of things that you could pick up on for the athlete in the future that are hugely beneficial, and you're only going to get when you're there.
Yeah, one just kind of observational takeaway as I watched some of the athletes that were just like I had the huge bench presses and um, their upper back development and
Ooh.
the lack of any postural, they're not internally rotated shoulders they don't have protracted scapula. They have you would think they were row specialists basically.
Uh-huh.
And it was really like, that is the platform that healthy shoulders function from for these 3 lifts. And,
Yep.
And it was clear, like there's people that, were good. Obviously, if you're there, you're good. But the ones that really were good had that just flat, rock hard, just very well developed upper back.
Yeah, and only enough mobility that they need to complete the lifts. Like everything else, they're working off so much end range rigidity that allows them to kind of use that to their advantage, I imagine, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's an adaptation to the imposed demand, and that's what it requires. You're not going to be a very highly mobile and high level power lifter at the same time.
Yeah, and I imagine it varies based upon the body types as well. Like people with longer femurs probably need even stronger upper back and lats to keep the bar closer on things like the deadlift. People who are longer torsoed need much more like that lumbar stabilization and good core stabilization because that moment arm on the torso is so long, it just gets compressed.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I went to the meet that I went to, I noticed that, obviously having short legs or short femurs is advantageous, but also having a very long torso, that's what goes on those lifters is the fact that during the squatting they fold, and during the pulling they end up getting pulled over because there's just such a long moment there.
The long lever. Yeah, exactly. I was really surprised. Like one of the real top lifters in her weight class did not look like a typical power lifter at all.
Oh, really?
Tall, rather thin, very long legs, and she got it done.
Wow.
I was.
Now, watching her move, did she have that go type, that 1A type fibers?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, that was immediately what I thought. Is like, I assumed this was a coach. I mean, it didn't seem possible. This was actually somebody competing at this level at first, but then, no, absolutely so. And then I saw her move and lift. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's you could be mechanically sound, you could be have great technique, but there's nothing like watching somebody being able to move explosively. It's like a different species.
Yeah. Yes.
And they look so unassuming, and then you see the movie like, oh, I get it now. They are able to create so much force in such a small amount of time. That's why they're so good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. That was anyway, awesome experience. I got to get out on the open road, get a little 6-hour road trip both directions. That was kind of nice just to chill.
Nice, man. That's good. I mean, I imagine. Go ahead, Scott.
I also learned one thing I am currently not very fit for whatsoever.
And what's that?
Walking, apparently.
Oh, is that right?
I mean, I got up there. Sunday didn't start till I didn't really need to be there till 3:30. Though I wanted to meet up with her and talk, about stuff. But so it was a beautiful morning. My hotel was maybe a 30-40 minute walk from the venue.
Oh wow!
So I was like, why don't I walk? I got all day to kill.
2 miles, no big deal.
Yeah, I walked over, walked back. As I started to walk back, and I'd been there several hours. I was like, is that really a hot spot on my foot already?
Oh, no kidding.
And by the time I got back, I was like, yeah, my feet are sore. And I had DOMs just on the top of my feet and my tibs for days. It's like, and then I was like, I guess I don't walk that much. I walk around the gym, and I walk like the half-mile loop as like a cool down once in a while, but yeah, since I'm all on the bike, I haven't really done running as part of my warm-ups or my conditioning like I used to in many years past. So maybe that's something I should change a little bit.
Just some basic touches there so you were able to walk 2 miles without getting DOMs. So there's Scott.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
So now that the meet is over, obviously she's going to probably be continuing her career in powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're assuming that she's not retiring at this point.
Yeah, I know she's kind of got her eye on Masters soon, but
okay.
Yeah, just very she's had most of a week of rest now. She's going to come in next Monday, and we're going to kind of game plan. But she did say she wants to try and pull 500 by the end of the year, which, 19 pounds away, that's probably in her wheelhouse.
Yep. Yeah, that's very cool. So, now that the peaking meat is kind of come and gone, maybe attaining some of those cool little, check marks in terms of her overall goals all time. Maybe you go after that. But then are you now kind of maybe gearing toward GPP? Are you what's your mindset now going into this there, Scott, assuming that you haven't spoken with her and seen her goals and what she wants to do just yet?
Yeah. I won't know that for sure till Monday, but generally after long cycles like this, it becomes a kind of a GPP phase. We go back to some of the things that you don't focus on quite as much, some, more actual horizontal and vertical pulling, single leg work, which that's gone by the wayside for a little while. As you get more specific toward meat, so we're going to bring those things. Core strength, I kind of do a mobility based assessment, and we revisit that a couple times a year. And so these early phases will have, whether they're pails and rails or lift offs or things to work on, some things that we need to work on still. And so that will be that for a little while, but trying to pull, we're obviously can't take our foot off the gas pedal on the deadlift. So,
what mobility changes do you expect after? I don't know. You should probably have like a 12-week block to peak for nationals, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What things do you anticipate seeing, given the amount of frequency, volume, and intensity that she was doing? The bench, deadlift, and squat. What do you anticipate seeing?
I'm sure some has slipped because since the last GPP phase, but it's been my experience that she regains it fairly quickly.
Okay.
Using very strength and nervous system protocols like isometrics and things. We don't stretch per se. Things that we're trying to work on is thoracic extension is a bit of an issue, as is external rotation.
Yep.
And then some hip rotation stuff would be the kind of revisit, see what the spine is looking like on a segmented basis, cat camel, that kind of thing.
So that's actually
and then
we'll
look at some breathing resets. I typically mix it up. She's done these sorts of things for a long time. I try to rotate and come up with new things to hopefully stimulate some progress.
Yep. So that's something that you can do if you're doing your own training, like you just got done with some big peaking meet, whatever, is kind of assess within yourself, like, all right, what do my hips look like? What do my shoulders look like? What do my thoracic look like right now? And then kind of making that maybe a basis of the mobility protocols that you're going to use in your GPP, your general preparedness training, in your first phase of your new training cycle.
Yep. Yeah, I'll often have work where we have the very strength elements, typically going toward lighter weights and some a little more volume, but mixed right in with that maybe in a A1, A2, A1, A2, A3, is some sort of mobility, active mobility piece in there in these phases, kind of builds it in, and rather than saving it toward some circuits at the end or something.
Yep, got it. And now that this is her about third year of doing powerlifting now.
Yeah, I think it's about 3. Yeah.
You probably also have an idea of the kind of types of training, rep schemes that seem to work well with her nervous system and the athlete that she is.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. So, like I said, we stay on the low end. Even we don't do a lot of long, higher rep or sets that have a slow tempo.
Okay.
And where you've got minute time under tension kind of stuff. We don't do much of that. If we're going to build volume, it's going to be by doing multiple lower rep sets generally.
Okay.
It seems to work better. I mean, maybe the rest won't be too long.
Yep, you get those poundages in smaller sets, more smaller rep ranges, higher amounts of sets, or maybe even more frequency throughout the week.
Yep. Yeah. We typically go a little more higher frequency also in the GPP or kind of the accumulation phases that we'll work through. Her life just works best with 3 days a week in the gym, but we can do 4 for blocks of time for sure, as long as her practice or work, is set up where she can do that.
So she's got.
So sometimes we pre-plan that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, she's actually an acupuncturist and has her practice. So.
Oh, nice, cool. So obviously you're working with an athlete who's pretty mindful of their own body and spirit. Then,
Yeah.
very cool. For you now, Scott, now that the season is over and that kind of stuff, what do you have to look forward to in terms of your athletes coming up into the end of the year here? Have anything, other things in particular that you're going to be working toward? I know you had a big season as well there, Scott. But,
right, yeah, I'm kind of in that same off season a little bit myself.
Okay.
And, though I do have a few things I'm getting for finish my annual little web video I try to do every year to recap the year. So I got a couple of things I'm chasing there, but weather prevents it from being quite as intense as the earlier. Well, this week is beautiful, but it's going to end,
Eventually, it always does.
Yeah. Yeah, for people that aren't necessarily training for one particular thing, I still kind of try to, whether we break the year out into a goal or we just create sort of seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of my clients that's a professional dancer. We're just about prepping. He's going to be in London training for the next month after next week, I want to say. So we're kind of wrapping what we've done in here, a building cycle to prep for that, and then we'll pick back up, once he gets back. So I have some performance artists that I train, and our shows are kind of the seasonal thing. You have to kind of peak and taper a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different type of athletics, but a similar type of a process.
And then getting some more education as well, Scott, right?
Yes, soon will be. Yep.
Yep. So Scotty took the initiative and got us all signed up and prepping for the Human Matrix seminar in Portland, Oregon, through Zach Couples.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be something that we're going to be doing in the beginning of November. I think it's the 10th and 11th there, Scott?
Yeah, plus or minus a day or two, something like that.
So I'm going to be heading up to Portland, and hopefully during that time we'll get a face-to-face podcast in. What do you say, Scott?
Yeah, usually we have to do it on a non-traditional day. We can make that happen.
Perfect. You got anything else for today, Scotty?
Well, I think that should do it. I'm going to roll out and get in a quick ride. And
good stuff, man. Well, again, congratulations on the Nationals coaching appearance there, Scott. But I'm Sean LaFlock. You can give me a show across at DartyBeach.com.
I'm Scott Hagnes. You get me at Scott at CrossFitPortland.com.
Scotty, I'll catch you next week, brother.
All right. Yeah, have a good week.
Take care.